Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 and back to Trans Am for round 7 of Season 4. We're here at High Speed Ring. We have a 1 hour endurance race lined up. Weather on the horizon as well, but before we get into any of that, we of course have to qualify. We're in the good old Superboat once again for this one. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this race plays out. High Speed Ring is a classic circuit in Gran Turismo. It's been around since the start, and yeah, it's always a fun place to go racing. So we get on to our qualifying lap. Not a particularly difficult lap to put together in 99% of cases. Big drift through turn 1, which is absolutely flat out in almost every car imaginable, and then turn 2 had a bit of a mishap there, just went in too deep, so I committed to the wall there just to avoid any damage to the car, and then into turn 3. We'll just have to survive these corners. The Superbird is not good in this middle sector through these two sort of flatter corners here. It really does need the banking to get it turning, but through turns 1, 2 and 6 it's actually quite quick. So as we continue on, turn 5, bit of a nothing corner, and then into turn 6. A few different ways you can approach this one. We took the low line there, took a really early apex, go up high and ride the banking all the way out, and then straight onto the line, and we'll complete our first flying lap. And it's a 12.4, 1 minute 12.4, so that's actually one of the better laps I've done in this car. Might even be the fastest I've ever lapped this circuit. So we'll try again though, because we can always improve. And already I think we're going to be a little bit up. We got through turn 1 a bit more smoothly, and then again I committed way too deep into turn 2. The topic of wall riding did come up, which you know, we're not really supposed to be doing there. So yeah, that was it was not intentional, but yeah, just on both laps I just went too deep because I really did want to try and get a good qualifying, and the end result is, the matter of fact is, we probably did gain time out of that, but it's not I think going to make a huge difference, because inevitably whenever we actually get to the start line, as we try the alternative line through this final corner, starting up high and just holding it all the way up on top of this white line all the way around, might have grazed the barrier on the exit there as well, but that line I think is a bit faster, and we break into the 11s, which is absolutely insane. Not the most legitimate lap time, I'll admit that myself, but the matter of fact is, we did manage to put that lap time in, which means we qualify up in P5 for this race, which, to be honest, is probably the highest the Superbird has ever qualified for anything. But yeah, there was definitely a little bit of cheesing done at turn 2. But like I was saying, everyone gets shuffled around so much with you know, cars getting off the line at different speeds naturally, so qualifying itself is not always the most important thing. But anyway, we will see how it all plays out. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it and get this 7th round of Trans Am Season 4 underway. We're here at a High Speed Ring, and we have 9 cars lining up on the grid. Ash starts on pole position, starting on the hard compound tyres. Same tyres for Sparrow, starting out of P2. Great qualifying for Sparrow. And then Banana Notto hoping to keep that run of podiums up in 3rd position on the grid. Then it's Heafy starting out of P4. And then we'll be starting off P5 on the medium compound tyres. Jester on the hards, starting out of P6. And then it is Uncle Pete, the only other driver, starting on mediums, starting out of P7. Then it's Jokin starting P8 on the hards. Same for Ferbs, starting out of P9. And then that rounds off the grid. So 7 drivers starting off hard, only myself and Pete on the mediums, as we get ready to get underway here at High Speed Ring. 5 red lights are on, and we are underway for round 7 of Trans Am. and it's an alright start for us, marginally better than Heafy, and we might be able to get past. We've already been overtaken by Uncle Pete though, around the outside, so Pete was very quick off the marks there, and we'll make the move around the outside of Heafy, move ourselves up into 6th position. So despite actually making that overtake, we've lost out generally off the start, back down the inside of Uncle Pete, but a bit early on the brakes into this corner after those few moments in qualifying and being on a slightly harder compound than what we qualified on, of course. I don't really know how much grip there was going to be there. And on top of that, when you take that narrow line on the inside, it's very easy to find yourself understeering all the way up into that outside wall. So yeah, as we accidentally pause it there for a brief moment, we continue on, and we are just struggling a little bit to keep up through that middle sector. Ferbs is going to make that move around the outside, and we give him plenty of space to get that done as we get back on the racing line. Ferbs taking that narrower line into the final corner, and then you know, diving down, accelerating down the banking on the exit. Everyone dives off into pit lane to get rid of the hard tyres after just one lap, and that leaves myself and Uncle Pete second and first after the first lap of this race. So yeah, that's very interesting to see how the start of this race has played out, but we'll see what the pace is like if we can chase down Uncle Pete. But we'll take a look at a few replays of the start. Sparrow, I think, got the best launch of anyone, and great acceleration off the line, and moves straight up into the race lead, moves past Ash, and it's a very solid start to the race for the Camaro driver. Heafy, on the other hand, did not get away well, and was immediately overtaken by Jester there, and yeah, just struggled. We made a little bit of contact as well with Heafy off the line, as we also made our move around the outside, and Uncle Pete got through as well. So Heafy dropped a number of places along the run towards the first corner, and then just probably decided to sit back and watch here. Didn't quite have the speed to make any moves into turn 2, and yeah, just sat back to see what was playing out, and then got overtaken by Ferbs on the exit there. So steady start to the race for Heafy, and drops from 4th down to 8th. Here's the onboard with Ferbs, dodging down low to make that move on Heafy at the exit of turn 2. Gets through nice and cleanly. Finally, we'll go on board with Joken, who had a reaction time of just over 2 seconds off the grid there, but gets going eventually, but drops 1 position into last for Joken there. So slow start to the race, and has lost the tail end of the pack. But like I said, everyone on the hards came into the pits at the end of the first lap. So Sparrow in, Ash is in, Banana Notto's in, Jester's in, as well as Ferbs, Heafy and Joken, and myself and Uncle Pete still left out racing on the circuit. But it was actually Banana Notto who came out of pit lane first, ahead of Ash and then Sparrow. So the top 3 have switched around completely, but Sparrow looks keen to maybe get that place back from Ash down the inside at the exit of the first corner. They run side by side towards turn 2, and looks like Sparrow might be able to get this done here into turn 2. Sparrow moves up ahead of Ash, and back up in second out of those who have stopped in this race. There's Jester ahead of Ferbs, so they have maintained a position from when they came in, and then it's Heafy and Joken who need to recover from slower starts in this race. We continue on then to the end of lap number 2, on to lap 3, and we are, well, for a brief moment are going to have the fastest lap of the race, 8/10 roughly faster than Uncle Pete. So we do have the pace over the Mustang in front of us at this stage. So yeah, let's see if we can chase him down and maybe make a move. Uncle Pete's a little bit out of shape there, grazes the wall a few times, but I don't think he will have damage from that. But yeah, that is encouraging signs in this race as we continue to close in through even this middle sector. We're pretty similar, maybe Uncle Pete's slightly faster through these corners, but through the banking, especially through turn 1, we have great pace. And here we go, exit of turn 1. We're about to make a move here down the inside of Uncle Pete's, but we braked a little bit early. I need to stop saying that. And yeah, Uncle Pete is able to hold on around the outside and maintain the race lead for now. But I think it's only a matter of time before we are able to get through. Meanwhile, behind, we've got Banana coming through the first corner. Ash right behind Sparrow, still fighting over what is currently 4th and 5th position, but no changes for position there, but they're very close. Uncle Pete out wide on the exit of turn 1, and now we make the move down the inside, and this time I think we've got it done as we're late on the brakes, a bit too late. We slam into the wall, and that has damaged the right front corner of the car, so that's very unfortunate. And Uncle Pete is going to come back at us now on the left hand side as we head into turn 3. Uncle Pete holds on to the position in the end. We have to slot in behind, as I wasn't quite sure how much turning capability we were going to have there, so I was a little bit cautious. But yeah, Uncle Pete is able to hold on to that one. We have to rethink our strategy there. We just got a little bit too late on the brakes into turn 2. But we did lead the race for a brief moment there. But yeah, that turn 2 wall can be quite nasty when you approach it on a sharp angle, which yeah, we had no choice but to do in that occasion after we put the brakes on a bit too late there. So we'll have another go at it if we still have the pace, but of course that damage is going to cost us a little bit of speed as into the pits come both Banana and Sparrow, and Banana both of them in fact to go on to a set of the soft compound tyres after moving on to the mediums at the end of lap 1. So as we continue on, again we can keep it much lower than Uncle Pete through turn 1, and that gives us another great run on the exit. We again make the move down the inside into turn 2, and again we hit the outside wall. We just can't make this move the way we really want to, and now despite the fact we're up in fuel map 1 to keep this fight going with the damage we have, Uncle Pete's still going to try and make the move around the outside. Bit of contact there, in fact, as we fight our way through turn 3 and trying to give as much space as I can, and Uncle Pete is able to hold on to the position and move back in front as we're just about pushing him along on the exit. But I think that might be the end of this fight now. My front tyres have certainly seen better days, and it might be time we come in and get rid of these medium tyres, put hards on perhaps for the next stint, and just get rid of those, because we are expecting it to rain in this race, and we are expecting that to potentially happen soon. So we'll do a short stint on the hards and wait for that rain to come, if it indeed does. If not, we'll move on to the softs regardless. But yeah, we spent a little bit of extra fuel in that stint just trying to keep that fight going. But yeah, there's the replay. Just too committed, too much speed, couldn't get it turned. Not much more to it than that. The right front corner was damaged, the tyre was very much worn, so we didn't have much turning capability left in this car as it was, and with another knock to the right front corner, that was only going to get worse. But we gave it a good fight. We led for a combined total of a few hundred meters, I think, so that's something. But yeah, unfortunately we just couldn't quite hold on to it. But anyway, we've got Sparrow chasing down Banana at the exit of the first corner, down the inside into turn 2, gets it done before the corner. Sparrow moves up and that is for currently second last position, but could be for essentially the race lead at some point later on, as Ash fakes a pit stop there, dives out at the last minute, but Jester comes in behind, and it's a set of the softs going on for Jester, who has completed the tyre requirements for the race at a very early stage in this one. We're still refueling a pit lane. We eventually get going once more, and we'll carry on our way. We did actually cut pit entry line, unfortunately, so there's a penalty there for us for doing that. But nonetheless, we'll continue to push on in this race. We're on the hard tyres now as Banana makes the way around the outside, and we've got Jester behind us putting the pressure on at the moment. And of course, in the moment, it's hard to really know who you're racing. Jester has already done 2 stops in this race, whereas we've only done 1. And we're of course right now on the hard compound tyres, so we're going to well, not exactly fight for it, because we do have that penalty to come, but I'm not exactly moving out the way until we get to the exit of this corner, and eventually we'll have to serve that penalty, and Jester will get through and move in front. We'll drop into last position, but yeah, Jester had to sit behind us for a while there. But I'm feeling good in this race, despite a few little hiccups. The pace feels very good, and I think we can hopefully stay competitive in this race as Heafy comes into the box and puts a set of softs on, and Heafy too has completed the tyre requirements for this one. We continue on. We go into the pits, and we'll get rid of these hard tyres after a 2-lap stint. Might have just seen there the rain starting to come down in this race, and now it is going to get very interesting as we put a set of soft tyres on for the next stint. We've completed our tyre requirements as well now, as most people are doing in the first couple of stints of this race, and yeah, we'll see what the conditions are like. The track pretty wet at the moment, just getting to that first line on the rain indicator in the bottom left, so we've got some pretty heavy stuff coming soon, so this is going to get pretty intense in the near future as Ferbs brings it around the final corner into the pit lane, and yeah, heads that way for the second time in this race, likely to get rid of those medium compound tyres. Same for Joken coming around the final corner, both of them pit lane bound. So we'll see Ferbs come into the box, and the medium tyres will come off. Soft tyres go on for Ferbs. It is definitely the compound you want once that rain starts coming down. And Joken comes in at the same time to get that set of soft tyres on the car as well. So yeah, that's a few pit stops ticked off in this race. They've now completed their tyre requirements. Meanwhile, we've got Uncle Pete coming through turn 1 in the race lead at the moment, and that's a few sparks coming off the right hand side. Manages to save it after that moment, but yeah, some sketchy times in this race, and oh, another collision into turn 2 there. So sparks fly here at high speed ring as we continue to race on, just running off the road at turn 3. So yeah, we're all going to be struggling with these conditions at the moment as we continue to watch on. We've got Heafy into the wall at the exit of turn 1 and loses it, and that is a big crash for Heafy at the exit of the first corner. Easy flat in the dry, but not so in the wet, and that's a big spin there. But Heafy recovers pretty quickly afterwards, drops a few spots, but it's straight away on the back of Jester. Here's the onboard replay, just yeah, off the outside wall, and then almost had it straight, but just no traction, and the car just looped around. Great job not to make any further contact with the wall, spinning quite straight along that second straight. But anyway, like I said, straight away getting back onto it, and already putting the pressure on Jester. Moves back through almost instantly. So Yeah, great move there to straight away get back past around the outside into turn 2. Here's the onboard with Banana Otto, who was first on the scene there, and just took it cautiously, moved to the right, got through on board with Jester in the Charger. And interesting note about this car, the headlights are unbelievably bright. You could see when we switched, and even when you look back, it's still very well lit up. It's quite strange. But anyway, Heafy gets back through, and Jester slots in behind. So definitely some cars better in the rain than others, and the boss looking pretty good at the moment, as we've got Uncle Pete drifting through the final corner right in front of Ash, and some sparks fly as a bit of contact is made between them, and Ash is going to try and push and shove his way through and moves ahead of Uncle Pete, and then immediately comes into the pit lane. So that was a little bit rude, but anyway, Ash gets the soft compound tyres on and is set to go for the next phase of the race. Meanwhile, we come into this final corner. We're struggling a bit in these conditions. The pace isn't great, and I was certainly more comfortable in the dry. And yeah, we just gave that outside wall at turn 6 a bit of a whack, which has given us a bit of damage. So yeah, it's tough times here at High Speed Ring in these conditions. It's very, very difficult. Even this main straight, you can't get to full throttle with the amount of water on the circuit. Oh, that's a big lose in a straight line. We used the wall there to straighten it up. But yeah, that was a big moment just along the main straight, which is, I would say, the most difficult part of the circuit. But anyway, as we continue to watch on, Heafy continues to try and come back forwards in this race, and is doing a decent job of that. Moves back down the inside of Banana Otto, and we'll get through, make that move stick, and move back up into what's now 4th position in this race. Yet to see where everyone truly sits, and we won't really know because there are so many varying strategies in this race. It's going to be hard to determine where everyone really is in this race until the later stages. And well, that's a big moment for Jester, straight up into the wall midway through turn 1, and Jester gets moving again, but that was a big crash, and there'll surely be significant front end damage to that car as Ferbs goes through. Jester will have to slot in behind, but yeah, Jester drops into P7 after that big spin at the exit of the first corner. So these conditions catching more than a few drivers out, and that was a big one. It just snapped and turned straight up into the wall after a bit of an overcorrection there. So huge moment for Jester, and yeah, that's going to be significant damage to that car. Back on board with myself, Uncle Pete goes off. We do exactly the same thing, a little bit less stylistic, but we both end up running over that same patch of grass, exit turn 3, and yeah, we are both really struggling in these conditions. We are yeah, not running the greatest lap times, and just losing time. Here's the onboard with Uncle Pete, hugely sideways into turn 3, and clatters off the wall there. Straight back onto it though, and straight back into the drifts. And to be fair, given the amount of sideways action in that Mustang, Pete's actually not going terribly slowly. So yeah, that is one way of getting around the circuit. We go on board now with Banana Otto, who finds the wall at turn 2. We'll get away with that with no damage, but just shows that it can happen to just about anyone. Here's another moment. That's Ferbs into the wall, and that's a big spin as well. Manages to, oh no, another one, and rolls backwards. So that's Ferbs just dropping down into P7, now into P8, as I assume that must have been Joken going through. So yeah, that's a shame for Ferbs. Drops to almost the back of the field, only myself a little bit further behind, but here's the onboard with Verbs. It was actually well after the corner, just lost it, putting the power down, and straight down into the bottom wall there, and secondary contact spins it around, and yeah, no chance to recover from that one. But we'll continue on. A little collision with the outside wall, getting moving again, but Verbs carries on once more in this race, albeit again with some damage to the front of that car. But into the pits now, we've got Jester coming in, and a new set of tyres, and a bit of damage repair going on to that car. Verbs comes into the pits as well, so you know, these cars that we've seen in the wars recently all coming in to get that damage fix and carry on in this race. So, where do we stand at the moment? We're in P9, last place, and yeah, we don't really have too much going for us at the moment. Really struggling for pace in these conditions, as we're being blue flagged now, as we've got Ash catching up to us in the race lead, and we have a bit of a wobble at the worst possible time there, and I just moved the car across to the right as much as I could as Ash was going through on the left hand side. Plenty of space between us though. We drop off the lead lap in this race, but thankfully the track will be drying up soon. We might be able to get into a rhythm again, but yeah, we just have no pace in these conditions as things stand. Ash, there's the onboard of that little moment. Anyway, into the pits also comes Uncle Pete in this race, and a new set of tyres go on. And I think was going to be the hard compound tyres going on for Uncle Pete in that stop. So, bit of a different strategy for Uncle Pete, running those mediums much longer. As oh, that's Jester into the wall at turn 2. So, just got some damage fixed, and that might be a bit more for Jester. So that's a real shame. Jester brings it around into the pits, and it'll be yet more repair work going on for the Jester crew down there in pit lane. It'll be a short stop at least, just to get that damage fixed and continue on once more. And whoa, that is Uncle Pete drifting into pit lane, and manages to get it in before he spins. And we'll move on to the soft compound tyres now after that one lap stint on hards. So now I think everyone is on the softs, and we'll be using only that compound for the rest of the race, as Sparrow drifts it around turn 2. Very stylish there, and carries on in this race. So yeah, here's the replay of that. Very smooth, and then straightens it up just before the exit. So yeah, that was some style points for Sparrow there, as we go on board for myself smacking that turn 2 wall, and far less style points for that one, as we've got more damage to the right front corner in this race, and we're going to bring it into the pit lane and get that fixed up, because running around this circuit in the wet with damage just isn't much fun. But anyway, we have plenty of fuel in the car at the moment, but yeah, it's really just the damage. I don't want to have to contend with that. And we're getting to the point where if it is really wet for the rest of the race, we can probably make it to the end of the race, probably from here, to be honest, as Ash sparks it away through the first corner. But if it dries up, then we will need to make another stop in this race. So we've potentially made an extra stop there. It really just depends on the weather. But anyway, that's another moment, as Jester got down into that bottom wall on the exit, but managed to save it on that occasion. We get the damage fixed on our car, and we carry on in this race once more, as the rain has cleared. It would seem nothing on the radar now, and yeah, hopefully we can start finding some speed in this race again, as we go on board with Sparrow through the final corner, and that's Uncle Pete having a big slide just in front, but Sparrow will make his way through around the outside on the exit, get clear of Uncle Pete. But that's always a scary moment when you see someone losing control just 100 meters up the road. but they get away with it, and we'll both carry on as we continue to watch on with Sparrow, though, at the exits of turn 1, moving up towards turn 2. Bit of a moment, and Uncle Pete coming back round the outside into turn 2. Side by side they go, and Sparrow will hold on, but Uncle Pete was almost about to get that place back. Move back in front of Sparrow. Wasn't going to happen, though. Meanwhile, we've got Ash drifting through turn 5 and getting a few style points of his own there. So, yeah, it's been a very interesting time in the wet conditions as we have a bit of a run through the field, as Sparrow was not too far behind Ash, and then a bit of a bigger gap back to Heafy in third. So yeah, Ash and Sparrow are dominating this one at the moment, as we see more sparks fly at turn 2, and it was Banana Otto this time getting into the outside wall and actually hit that wall at a fairly acute angle on this occasion, so probably did some damage this time. It's when you hit that wall nose first when you have a real chance of damage. But anyway, we'll have a little run through the current order. Ash leads the way ahead of Sparrow in second position, so it's a Chevy 1-2 at the moment. Heafy runs third in the boss ahead of Banana Otto, and Joken runs in P5. So a bit of a gap back, you know, to off the podium, but we have to go back even further to find Ferbs in P6 ahead of Jester and Uncle Pete, all just coming out of the tunnel. So big field spread in this race, and while they're all coming out of the tunnel, I'm still heading through turn 1, more than a lap off the lead at the moment. So yeah, it's a very much spread out field, but that's where we all sit at the moment. Anyway, as we continue on, we've got Jester now heading towards the pit lane for another stop in this race, and it won't be for any tyres. The crew pick those up and take them back into the garage. Just fuel going on for Jester, as we've also got Sparrow coming in to the pit lane, and it will be a tyre change for Sparrow. But everyone's trying to, you know, start to plan backwards from the end of the race as we go on board with Heafy, who disappears into thin air, unfortunately. Got disconnected halfway through this race. So that's a shame. Heafy was running very well with some good pace in this one, but unfortunately will count for naught at the end of the day. But Banana Otto into the pit lane for yet another pit stop, and you know, like I said, we're getting towards that point, depending on the weather, where you can you know, start to get to the end of the race from here, as Sparrow sparks it up at the exit wall there and carries on. Uncle Pete, not too far behind, does exactly the same thing, sparking away on the exit wall there of turn 1. Meanwhile, as we continue on in this race, rain coming down again, as we've got Ferbs going a lap down to Ash, and Ferbs is in third position, and Ferbs does have more fuel in the car at the moment, so it's not really a lap down just yet, but it does show the insane field spread when you're putting a lap on the third placed car in the race. That is just crazy. So as we carry on, still struggling in these wet conditions, and once again we've got some pretty serious rain coming, and it's hitting us right now as we're just about to head into the tunnel. We've already lost the rear end about 15 times since going on to our onboard, and yeah, it is really a struggle. And you know, we are definitely close enough to the end of the race now to pit and go to the end, but we're going to do that anyway, just to put some new tyres on. Our tyres aren't that worn out, but you always want to have the best tyres you can in these conditions. It just makes things a little bit easier, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive it into the pit lane and put some fresh soft compound tyres on for the next phase of the race, as we've only got 22 minutes remaining in this one. So yeah, including the rain, I mean, who knows how many laps that's going to be, because if the rain does slow the lap times down, you know, that much. So, you know, could be anywhere from 10 to 20 laps really left to go in this race, as we also see Ash in the pit lane, likely for the final time. And as we get that bit of damage repaired, we carry on once more, as the worst of the rain is just about past us now, and we can carry on, hopefully, in this race without too much more interference of that treacherous rain, as we also see Uncle Pete cycle through the pit lane. We get the blue flags, unfortunately, as Banana Notto goes through over the cable stayed bridge, and yeah, we have to just very carefully navigate turn 3, and you know, approaching that corner at a slower speed does make it tricky, as we go for a bit of a spin on the exit, and you just lose that rhythm when you do have to deal with those blue flags. And yeah, that's what I'm going to blame for that little spin there. Just yeah, that little distraction of having to serve that blue flag was enough to tip us into a spin there. So yeah, a little bit of a weird one, but we carry on in this race as we're still under pressure from the blue flags. I did think about just doing it in the tunnel, but I do still want to race on here and try and you know, not drop too far back in this race. But we're just going to stay low on the exit as Jester goes around the outside. Can tell that car from a mile away with that very beastie sound coming out of it. But anyway, as we are into the final third of the race now, we continue to struggle for traction in a straight line. And yeah, if it wasn't for that, if we could carry more speed along the main straight, I think we might be a little bit better off in this race. That's a pretty serious crash there, though, for Uncle Pete into the turn 2 wall. Carries on, but that was some pretty severe contact for Uncle Pete there. Rear end first, sliding it backwards into that wall, as we look forwards to Sparrow, who's putting the pressure on Ferbs down the inside into turn 1, and Sparrow makes the move up into 3rd position in this race. So Sparrow running very well in this one in the wet conditions here at High Speed Ring. So it's a great run for Sparrow so far, as he takes that position and moves up into the podium places. Might be looking for just his 2nd podium of the season, I believe, as we continue to race on. There goes Ash moving on through, and you can see through turn 1, even compared to Ash in the race lead, we're not that slow here. It really is just the straight line stuff where we lose out the most, I think, and perhaps turns 3 and 4 as well. But yeah, these wet conditions have definitely harmed our pace in this race compared to the dry. But thankfully it will be drying out again very soon, but because it's dark, that will keep the water around on the surface for a bit longer. You don't have the sun on the track evaporating that water, so it does take a bit longer to dry off. And there's another spin for us, and again, just after getting blue flagged, we go for a spin. The blue flags were a bit earlier, so I don't know if I can blame it that time. Now we're stuck here just spinning around, and we eventually get things pointed in the right direction, as we had a bit of a near miss there with 2 cars going through, Jokin and Uncle Pete. But anyway, that was a bit of a moment there for us, and for the 2nd time we come across at turn 3, just putting a bit too much power down on the exit. Here's the replay off board of that moment, and yeah, just again a bit of the distraction of the blue flags for Jokin behind us, and we spin it around and then spin it around again. The first flick spin just went a little bit too far, but we carry on. Uncle Pete getting through there as well. We'll go on board with Joken, and this view is actually quite terrifying because we were rolling back ever so slightly after the initial spin. I was actually not reversing to get back on the track. I was actually accelerating, trying to move out the way, but the car continued to roll backwards. So there was a little bit of a pinch point there, but Joken and Pete both were able to get through. Meanwhile, we understeer into the turn 2 wall, taking that same low line that Jester tried earlier on, and did that exact same thing. So you really do need to take that high line into turn 2. Then, you know, even if you do go in too deep, it's not going to be as bad because you hit the wall at a bit of a straighter angle and won't do quite as much damage. But into the pits now with Ferbs, and it's another new set of tyres going on for Ferbs, as well as fuel to the end of the race for the Camaro. And yeah, the final few stops of the race coming up now, as we've got Sparrow coming around and sparking it up at the exit of turn 1, back on board with myself. And the racing line, the dry line, is well and truly formed by this point of the race. Curbs are still a bit wet. Decided to be the brave one to try that high line, which takes a bit longer to dry out. Didn't go so well though. Big spin, and it's not only a 360, it's a little bit more than that. Not quite the 720, but we continue on again. Somehow we managed to get away with that without finding the barriers and causing any further damage to this car than what we've already had in this race. But yeah, that was a pretty big one, and we managed to get away with it for the most part. We were talking about whether that high line was going to be safe to use, and I very quickly reported, no, do not go up there. That's pretty deadly up there still. So yeah, we'll stay away from that line for a bit longer yet, as into the pits comes Jester in the very late stages of this race. And yeah, some new tyres and fuel go into that car, as we've also got Joken coming into the pit lane as well, and from second position. This is within the last 5 minutes of the race, so I imagine Joken was trying to stretch the fuel to the end. No tyres going on, just fuel for Joken, so a disaster for the Ford Mustang that was running in second position. Will now drop into third, with the chasing pack not too far behind. So it's a shame for Joken, and what would have been a very good result is now not quite as good as it was for a moment there. But let's take a look at Ash in the race lead, because the track's getting to that point where Ash is pretty keen to go for that fastest lap and go for the triple star pole position, race win, and fastest lap. Sparrow holds the fastest lap at the moment, but Ash is pretty determined to get that one back. So let's see what happens here as Ash comes around to complete the first sector as purple. And that's pretty impressive, because as we just saw from myself not too long ago, that high line is not usable. So Ash is having to do this lap taking suboptimal lines through turns 2 and 6. So into the tunnel now, a bit of a slide on the exit. We'll come up to the second intermediate. It's also the fastest we've seen so far to this point of the lap, so it'll be interesting to see how the final sector goes, having to run that low line. Is there enough speed down there to complete the fastest lap of the race? It'll be a sprint flat out to the line now. Is it going to be enough for Ash to take the fastest lap to the line? Yes, it is. Ash takes the fastest lap away from Sparrow, and we'll get that bonus point as things stand. Back on board with myself as we continue on our way through the final corner. Another big spin there, and that was through no experimentation, but that does very much show how much that high line is to be avoided. We've got Ferbs coming through now, and we just barely get out of the way. This is a very long car, and we're parked at right angles. I was reversing up to that outside barrier to try and get out the way. Where low fuel, so we actually have to come into the pits as well onto the final lap. and refuel. I was pushing on the fuel at the end there because I actually had excess, and then pushed it too far. So yeah, we'll come in for a top up, but that was a close moment, but we were able to get away with it on that occasion. We'll refuel. We actually ended up putting 2 laps of fuel in. We'll get that little bit of damage fixed that we've just given ourselves, and then we'll get going again for the final lap. I put 2 laps of fuel in. We've got 45 seconds left in this race when we come out, so yeah, we're not going to be needing that, but we carry on regardless, and we'll push to the end in this race. Here's the replay, and just got onto the high line, onto the wet stuff, and absolute passenger from that moment forwards, and then caught it kind of in reverse there, and then all of a sudden saw Ferbs coming up, parked it up against the outside wall. It was really the only place I could go. Very difficult to even get the car up there because it's wet. To actually get the traction to move up there is a bit of a challenge of its own. Here's the onboard with Ferbs through that final corner, running quite high mid-track, not quite getting into the wet stuff we did though, and yeah, Ferbs gets through. We managed to move out the way just about enough. Here's the onboard with Ash, who had a bit more of a trickier time because we were crossing over that dry line in front, but Ash gets through cleanly regardless. So we've had a bit of a chaotic end to this race, adding a bit of spice for some of the other drivers, as we've given them a few little incidents to avoid. But anyway, as we continue to watch on, this is a change for the podium here, as Banana Notto makes the move on Joken up into 3rd position. So the series leader, finishing on the podium in every race so far, will do so again and move up into 3rd position in the closing stages of this one. Good move there by Banana Notto, as we see another close battle on track here. So despite the field spread in this race, as Uncle Pete makes the move on Jester, there are still a few battles playing out towards the end of this one. Unfortunately, we've just had too many mistakes in this race to be amongst this. If we strategized better and had a few less crashes, we probably could be in amongst this battle for P6, I think, but not to be on this occasion, as Ash brings it to the line, and it's a race victory, a pole position, and a fastest lap for Ash. And Ash crawls across the line, waiting for that timer to hit 0. So perhaps a low fuel situation there for Ash, not willing to do another lap, but around the final corner, the fight for P6 and 7 will be resolved in the favour of Uncle Pete, who will take P6, Jester P7, and will come around the final corner to take 8th position. Not a great race from us, unfortunately, today. Was hoping for a little bit more out of High Speed Ring, but wasn't to be, as Sparrow brings it around, and that car is not running on full steam. Sparrow's out of fuel. Here comes Banana Notto around the final corner, potentially to steal 2nd position. Sideswipe Sparrow on the way through. Banana Notto moves up into P2, and Sparrow is left with a 3rd position. What a shame, after winning at Northern Isle. Not going to be another top 2 finish here though. Sparrow finishes 3rd in this one. We move back to Joken and Ferbs, who are both out of fuel, coasting to the line there, and Joken will win that little battle. But yeah, Ferbs was actually pushing Joken there, but until Ferbs too ran out of fuel. But that's how we all finished at the end of this one. So yeah, some pretty close finishes regardless, but yeah, that's that. So we've already covered where everyone finished. We know Ash got the triple star, pole, race win, fastest lap, domination for Ash. There are the final results, and unfortunately Heafy not making it to the end of this one. But yeah, without further ado, let us run through the championship standings, and we'll see how this race has affected things. Alrighty, here are the championship standings, and as you can see, this is the point in the championship where we can start knocking out some rounds And yeah, we're only counting the top 6 results of the 10 races this season. So Banana Notto, of course, still leads the championship up to 181 points, replacing a third place finish with a second. It's you know you're having a good season when you start replacing your third place finishes with seconds. But anyway, John Teeter, a fair way behind on 165 points, but does have that 18-point finish at Northern Isle Speedway. Very much standing out there. And pretty close between the next group, though. 162 points for Jester, not improving this round. 155 for Ferbs there, and 147 for Sparrow. So they could all improve on their scores fairly easily. We knock out the 12-point race that we had at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and we had a little bit better luck here. Scored 18 points in this one, which moves us ahead of J-Dog in the standings, who also wasn't here for this round. And yeah, that's just about it for the main contenders in this championship. As for mathematical contenders in the series, there are 6 who can still win this championship. Banana Notto, of course, as well as John Teeter, Jester, Ferbs, Sparrow, and Artsy still have a mathematical chance of winning the championship. Ash falls short of being a mathematical contender by just 1 point after today's race. So that second place finish for Banana Notto making all the difference for that one. But anyway, that is all for this one, so I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. Other than that, I will see you in the next one, and goodbye.